Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I am going to be talking about the kite configuration in a natal horoscope. I'm trying to get to see that top part on here, the 1 degree Aquarius Emcee. That's why I'm adjusting this. I think you could see it for the most part anyway, not the whole thing, but you know, it's 1 degree Aquarius and most of it is showing. Now, a kite formation, a kite is an astrological configuration or aspect pattern that has 3 points trine each other, aka a grand trine, but in addition to it, it has one planet or point that receives a sextile from 2 of those points. So you have 4 planets or points total. Well, I should just say 4 points total. They can be planets, or you could have either the Emcee or the ascendant, and Chiron, the north node, south node, I do count in that. Of course I don't count the if north node and south node, but I would count one or the other. Now, and thus this makes a kite-like formation. This configuration may make a person very cognizant of his or her talents, their positive attributes, and it could lead to some strong prodigious achievements, and aspirations may be readily met with little or no delay. Now, the main difference between this configuration and a grand trine is the fact that there's less complacency and you'd have more action in this. Now, the thing to look at now, as you could see, it does have a kite like appearance to it, and you see the trine. This is my chart. What else is new? Between the 3 points, the Emcee in Aquarius, Uranus in Libra, Moon in Gemini. But there are 2 sextiles in this, and what it is the sextiles are made to this point that carries the opposition, and it's in this case it's the Moon in Gemini sextiling Chiron. Chiron is the point of opposition with Uranus and Libra, and the other sextile is Chiron sextile the Aquarius Emcee. Now, basically in a kite formation, what happens is you look at this opposition, and obviously you're going to have what I always say, the tension exasperation point in that opposition, and these sextiles can perhaps alleviate this tension that exists here. Now, the opposition, the one positive thing with it kind of prevents that complacency a little, which would just be indicated by the grand trine by itself, and it can maybe propel the person into some sort of action, because when you have obstacles, then they need to be moved, and it kind of forces the person to act on things a little bit more. Now, the first thing we're going to look at the 2 points, I should say. One is Chiron, and then the other is Uranus, and that opposition may indicate possible maybe wounds connected with rebellious iconoclastic behavior, and the fact that Uranus is in the 6th house in this opposition could very well come from the work environment. And we look at we're going to look at the 2 sextiles, and this could help to alleviate any the problems or conflict indicated by this opposition. Now, the moon making the sextile aspect, we look at that to Chiron. Well, the moon making that aspect could indicate that perhaps, in my case, maybe helping others through nurturing qualities, through sympathy, through perhaps caring, showing sensitivity, but done in a Gemini way with a lot of, I guess we could say, verbosity and loquaciousness, and a lot of communication, nurturing on that level. And perhaps by doing so, maybe by doing this, I kind of help myself through perhaps problems that I may have had due to this opposition. By helping others, perhaps I help myself to some degree. And this is the next sextile is going to be Chiron sextile the Emcee. Now Chiron sextiling, making a sextile aspect to the Emcee. Now this could indicate perhaps maybe healing emotional wounds through career endeavors, through things with my livelihood. Now the Emcee is Aquarius. Now I'm not doing anything in terms of business related things with my astrology, but I still can perceive it as a career, even though there's no money in it at this point in time in doing so. And this is something where maybe by doing this I kind of find that outlet for myself. And when I talk about this opposition before with Chiron opposing Uranus, when I talk about that iconoclastic behavior, that rebellious behavior, perhaps it could indicate wounds, some emotional wounds that were associated maybe with not wanting, maybe there was some work aversion here, or wanting that independence or freedom connected with work. So by utilizing this sextile aspect, this may help alleviate the problems associated with it by finding that freedom through this Aquarius Emcee, and by doing so helping others with my astrology and helping perhaps emotional wounds with others. So that in that respect, that would be a way to perhaps alleviate some of that, maybe the problems, the tension that was connected with this opposition. Now we're going to look at the trines in this as configuration. Now I'm going to go to this trine first, the Emcee Aquarius, making the trine aspect to Uranus, which is the ruler of this house. So this is obviously could be a good aspect for showing some kind of, we could say, maybe ingenuity, some kind of way of expressing that maverick side of myself. Maybe I think this reinforces incorporating the astrology into my work life, and this could be obviously an auspicious aspect for this. So this is something where someone that may have this in their trine or their kite formation or what have you, this could be something where perhaps doing something connected with esoteric subjects, Uranus making that trine to the midheaven, which in this case is Aquarius, could really, I think, doubly reinforce that, maybe that inclination to do something with maybe the astrology in my case, and maybe doing it in my own way, being the maverick, doing it in my own, which is my own unorthodox manner, and you know how I do it, which is actually very conventional in a way, but when I say unorthodox, meaning different from a lot of the ways other people do it. You know, I sit down on the floor and do my delineations in a lot of my videos. Well, so I guess we kind of see that conventional, it's almost like there's a certain conventionality to what I do, but at the same time I'm showing that nonconformist because I'm not doing it in the same manner as the average person does. So we look at this now. The next trine is going to be Uranus to the moon. Now this could be something where the person can do, could be favorable for perhaps doing something with the public, which is the moon, and it could be something where in this particular case could be something doing some esoteric interest, which is, of course, we look at Uranus, and doing so by incorporating this communication, this need, this emotional need to communicate and verbalize things and feelings. So this is where this comes into play. And last but not least, we have this trine. It's actually a very long trine because you could see I used a little more than a 10-degree orb in this particular one, and it's like 10 degrees. The orb I used was 10 degrees 45 minutes of arc. I don't use more than 10-degree orb on aspects that involve at least one personal planet, the ascendant or midheaven. But in this case I did, and I think we could say that it's just a rather long, it is a long trine. But this is something where the trine between the moon and the Emcee, I think it's very similar to the number of the other aspects I described, because we're talking about this Aquarius Emcee involved again, which I think is about me. A lot of this is connected with me doing the astrology, and interestingly enough, this is 1 degree, and when I say something at 1 degree, I look at it as something where there's permanency, where there's some kind of, it's something, especially when you look in a fixed sign at 1 degree, it's something that's kind of what starts is there, and it's not going to come to any particular end, and it has some kind of sustainability and staying power. And I think in my case, I did astrology, I started this when my interest, I became enamored with this subject when I was like maybe 12 years old, and I haven't stopped since. So you can do the math, it's been over 30 years. This year I'll be 45, so it'll be like 33 years. So I really think that has something to do with the fact that my interest in astrology has been so enduring and has gone on for such a sustained and protracted period. And anyway, that combines with the moon in Gemini again, and as far as that communication, that verbosity, that thing where I just like to really communicate, and which I'm serving my emotional needs, it comes out, and it really seems like it blends well with the public image of being, I guess you could say, that maverick, and in this case that person that is strongly associated with the subject of astrology. So anyway, people, or I should say the astrologer, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for having a kite formation in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'm going to be starting something different. I'm going to be talking about the signs on the house cusps. Now, I'm not going to do the first house cusp because that's already been covered, and you could just refer to my rising sign videos, which I started at the very beginning of my YouTube astrology channel when I first started it. So you could refer to those. But I'm going to start talking about, I'm going to be talking about the signs on the cusp of the second house. Now, the first video will be about the second house, and then after that I'll be talking about Aries on the second house cusp, and then Taurus on the second house cusp, etc. So that's basically what's going to be going on. But two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.